There was a reliable water supply here of 1,000 gallons a minute. That's got to be a really good reason for putting a garrison there, hasn't it? Especially what with Jerusalem up in the hills and things. And that's still running, apparently. This is a picture of the modern Jericho, because the old Jericho was abandoned around 1400 BC, the times of the new prophets. This is the old Jericho. You can see it's a tepe, it's another mound. That's because they did more or less the same thing as the guys at Chapter. It's a habit in these places. These mounds are built on and built on and collapsed and built on. So this one's about a 10-metre high mound, because Jericho's quite an important place and because it was there for a very, very long time. 14-metre high mound, it says there. Must be right. By 9600 BC, Jericho was becoming a populous town, and it was heavily defended. This is described by archaeologists as a defensive construction of some sort. Most other people who aren't archaeologists say they don't know what the hell it is. It's built out of solid stone and mud and things. It's on the inside of the walls, so how it can be a defensive thing is anybody's guess. It's got these massive mud-lined bins around the bottom of it. This is simply a spiral staircase that goes down right to the bottom where it stops. There's a couple of skeletons in there. But it's a complete mystery as to what that is. On the other hand, when we go outside, we see there's the hut. See, you can see down into Jericho. There, you see how they're digging down into the tepe? Well, here's the walls of Jericho. Okay, there's a chap there, look, and there's another chap sitting up here, and there's another wall of Jericho. Jericho's walls, tower, and surrounding rock-cut ditch are considered to be symbolic and more intended to impress than as actual defences. Well, that just really seems like a bizarre conclusion to reach, especially when they thought of this as a defensive item itself. I mean, as it seems, Jericho had a really bad time with geology as much as it did with armed force, but it was constantly assayed and knocked down and rebuilt, each time bigger and better. And they dug a trench into the living rock, like sort of 5 metres deep and 5 metres wide and 3 metres deep, and used the contents from that to raise the walls. That's a massive ditch to dig around your town, just to impress. I mean, it is true that they did actually great big things just to impress other people, I guess, but Jericho is something of a special case. There also appears to be a level in Jericho where all the metal disappeared. It's a pretty fascinating sight. So,
what's the Bible story with Jericho?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's in the time of the new prophets. That is. So I think it's in the book of Isaiah when somebody comes up and blows a horn outside the walls of Jericho and the walls come tumbling down. Well, there is of course still some healthy debate amongst the Christians as to the nature of that story, because a lot of biblical story is amazingly close to fact. But I think we're pretty sure now that this Jericho had been abandoned by the time that historical period of the Bible was occurring. But it probably remembers a much older time when somebody did come and do something like that to Jericho, I would imagine. So, 9600 BC, the town expanded, collapsed and burned and resurrected itself, each time bigger and stronger than before. 1400 BC, yeah. So, over several millennia ago, Jericho actually witnessed the entire move from nomadic lifestyles to farming and settled agriculture. It's in the bones of the animals that are buried at the site. You can see the bones begin with all of the wild creatures they had, and they turn into all the domesticated creatures that we've got, cows and sheep, and donkeys, I believe, were the three main ones. By 6000 BC, trade was becoming quite formal and widespread as well. We were starting to see people deal with each other. So all the places that we've seen so far have been isolated, largely because we haven't dug up the places that they're connected to. What we're going to see after the break, which I think we'll probably have now, if that's okay.
Yeah, perfect.
About 3/4 of an hour. We will go into what is basically the wave of civilization. What's happened up to now is we've had more or less egalitarian societies. We've had no weapons, no administrative centres, no temples, and we're now only about 6,000 years away from the present day. So everything from this stage, from the New Stone Age to now, all of the complicated stuff happens in the second half of the talk, when we will visit Iraq and one or two other places. I'll assume you come back.
please come and tea and coffee, help yourself, and network and check out the table as well that John's got up there with the DVDs as well. She'll make our way, sorry. She'll make our way to everything and get ready for next week, 10:30. Because this second half we're going to have silence of the audience, aren't we, Darren? Come on then, roll up. Come on. Trust me. That'll shut everyone on me thinking. Yeah, Crystal knows. Come on. Okay, over to Nick. Thank you very much. Thanks, Nick. Let's go.
Thank you very much for coming back. Took a little bit longer than expected because somebody forced me to eat fish and chips. God, I love being in the 21st century. Right, so we got as far as Jericho, we did, which kind of had a quick look at. And we said that Jericho was starting to see, was effectively sat over the time between when humans stopped wandering around and feeding off things on the planet as they found them and settled down and decided to start growing things of their own. And this really takes us to the point where civilization is kind of exploding all about. We know that the various places we've looked at so far have obviously been trading with other people. They'd have to kind of maintain their populations and the tools. This is a map we're going to come back to several times, and different towns will be coloured in each time so that you can keep track of where it is I'm taking you. This area here shows, this map here is this area here. And we've got you've got the Gulf, there's the Caspian Sea and the Black Sea and the Mediterranean Sea here. And the land we're interested in is called Mesopotamia, which means the land between the two rivers. And the two rivers concerned are the Euphrates and the Tigris. This here is known as the Fertile Crescent. It's where farming first started. There's plenty of rain up in, this is called Iraq in modern language. There's plenty of rain up here, and Turkey is really over here. So all of the developments we've seen growing Çatalhöyük and Göbekli Tepe, and they were coal beating brass in Turkey, kind of 7,000 years BC. So it sort of all happened over here and moved kind of eastwards. But farming was effectively born here, where there was plenty of rain. But the whole farming and civilization thing, strangely, really came of age down here in Suba and southern Iraq. Anyway, what we're really interested in here is a place called Arpachaya, the not very well-known burnt house at Arpachaya. The reason why this is coloured red is because Arpachaya is called a Halal site. What starts happening as we start trading and settling down and making flash pottery, the eras that archaeologists look at start being called by the pottery that they find in the places of that era. This is a horribly self-referential system, which is not necessarily as reliable as it appears to be, but we'll use it for the moment. This period is called the Halal Period, and from the fact that Arpachaya is over here, we can tell that these people were trading right the way over this area. Now, by this time, we can find Halal sites in northern Iraq, Iran, Turkey, Syria and Lebanon. So that pottery is spread very, very wide. There's a lot of people now dealing with each other. Draft animals are being used up in the Fertile Crescent. Cattle, sheep and goats have all been domesticated. Local grasses are becoming more like modern wheat and barley. And it's the grasses that were developed on the hills over here that have become all of our modern cereals. nearly all of our farm animals and nearly all of our farm cereals and our religion all come from this area and this time. Lentils and peas were being cultivated, so brave persons might have thought about becoming a vegetarian. I doubt it, though. And as I said before, the sites are still small at this stage. They're between 1.5 acres, and they've got populations of 20 to 150 people. Now, you remember back, Châtellerault was considerably bigger than that. There were hundreds of houses there. So although we're dealing with small settlements here, in Turkey there'd been bigger settlements. Some of these places are pottery production centres, so as people start settling down they can specialise, and you get whole little towns that are making, or little areas of towns that are making pottery. But it's also at this point that we start seeing, as well as jewellery and basket making, which have been going on for some time, but we start seeing the production of weapons. These are being made mostly from obsidian, which are kind of widely available and widely traded. But we still don't have any temples or centres of social administration. There still aren't any of those in these places up here. Arpachaya itself, here you go, there's a fantastic piece of archaeology. You can see how, once this place is dug out, it can just get filled in again. This is the extent of the Arpachaya site. It's a very big site. I'm not sure how well it's been investigated, but nearly all of the key stuff here was found at a single place. It's another tell, so it's another mound. It's a smaller one, but it is another mound. Only the uppermost levels have been explored, and that not thoroughly. Which is a shame, because it's almost certainly the most significant site of the era. What's even worse is that there was kind of one sort of half-trained archaeologist and a load of other people who were taught to do archaeology actually on the site. So a lot of the important finds were found in the rubbish, in the fill sites and the rubbish sites. They've been thrown away. Real shame. The burnt house at Arpachaya is here. We can see that it's sat on top of a much older structure. And these things, I can't remember what they're called, but they're all over the place, this area. And it seems quite apparent that the burnt house itself was built on top of something much more ancient, which for some obscure reason we haven't even looked at. Nobody's been down. And this is a hard place, Arpachaya. It doesn't appear to me to be in any reference books, and I had to hand over some money on the internet to get hold of a report from a place called JSTOR, which sort of sums up all the research that's happened into this place. Now for me, an ex-storeman, it's an amazing place because it's where we find the first seals on Earth. It's almost like these are seals of authority. They're people who are able to say, if you've got this seal on this sack, it's going to tell you that there'll be 12 in there and they come from me, so you're going to know the quality. Okay, so the first and most numerous seals that we found were found in this burnt house. But they also found an amazing collection of real beautiful pottery. This is one of the actual bowls, and this is a reconstruction of it. Now, these are the finest ceramics ever found anywhere in any of the Halal places. All at the burnt house at Arpachaya, loads of them. So they're the best ones they've ever found. It's the biggest collection of the most beautifully executed pottery in this house. They also found their stone jars. Stone jars are one of my favourite things from history. They're kind of jars with narrow necks and a big stone body, and nobody knows how they got whatever it was down the neck to make the body big of the vase, if you know what I mean. They're single piece things, they're made out of stone, and somebody saw it now. Arpachaya, there were seven stone jars. That's the biggest single collection of stone jars anywhere in the world, and 2 of them were made out of obsidian. Obsidian stone jars. How did they do that? Now, one of the real shames about this, quite apart from the fact that a lot of the archaeology was naff in the first place, is that because it's in Iraq, all of the bits had to be handed out to local Iraqi museums. So you know what's happened to them, don't you? We can no longer see any of them. They've all disappeared or been destroyed. Nearly everything that was found at the burnt house. Also, we find black obsidian cores and green obsidian things that have been part formed into daggers and sickles and things. So they're starting to do mass production, if you like. The black obsidian is very, very valuable and not so common. The green obsidian is very common. So what they're doing is they're getting other people somewhere else to work the green cheap obsidian into blacks and bring them to them. Whilst they're working themselves, they're working the black basalt from its kind of original form. So you're starting to see a kind of hierarchy of production. It's thought that the house was ritually destroyed